In this video, I'll be sharing with you the sewing continuation of our previous tutorial. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So if you haven't yet seen the drafting, go ahead to check on our previous tutorial on the channel. So here is the fabric I'm making use of, which is an Ankara, and I'm cutting this on fold. So for this particular dress, it's best to use a fabric that is thicker, just like your Mikado, a brocade, or damask fabric. That way the sides of the pattern is going to stand very well, like the gathered or pleated part of the dress. So I'll go ahead to join this with 1/2 inch, and then on the lining of this pattern I'll also join it, but I'll be adding an stay to this. So you can also add an stay to your fabric. It's even best to add an stay also to your main fabric, because while I was making my own dress, the fabric was wearing off. So it's best to go ahead to also iron and stay to it. So I'll go ahead to join this with 1/2 inch, and after I'm done joining it, I'll be joining the sides of this dress with 1/2 inch also. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'll be stitching this down with 1/2 inch. Now we are going to join my cup. So I've gone ahead to cut out my cup. I went ahead to add 1/2 inch round each pattern. So I'm working with a bra foam, which I also traced out. So you're going to use the same method to cut out the lining part, and you're going to be ironing and interfacing to it. So I'll go over to the machine and I'll join this round and also top stitch round my cup. After repeating this, I'll also try the same method on the other cup. So but before going ahead to stitch, it is very important to pin your cup to make it easier to join. So if you're using an already made cup, go ahead to join your main fabric, and then you'll be ironing your cup, your already made cup, to it. And you can use a hemming gum to attach that or stitch it down to the actual cup. So after I'm done stitching and ironing out my cup, this is how it is sitting pretty. Now what you're going to do is to cut out this excess. If you're using a wadding or a bra foam, you don't want to have that bulky effect at the joining of your cup. Now I'm going to start joining my cup, and to do that I'm going to go ahead to place this way and I will stitch. So I'm just going to stitch this all the way around to the end, but before stitching I'm going to pin it. That way it will make it easy. So while pinning it, if you notice that the body of the corset is actually smaller than the cup, go ahead to notch it just the same way I notched mine. Now when you notch it a little, you notice it will fit perfectly and you're not going to have issues joining your cup anymore. Now I'll go ahead to pin this side and go ahead to fix my cup to it. So I'll be stitching my cup to the body of the corset with 1/2 inch round. So after I'm done stitching, I'll also repeat this at the other side, and also repeat this also on the lining part of my dress. So here is my dress now. I've gone ahead to join my cup, and this is what I have. So when I was joining it, my fabric was actually wearing off, so it's best to iron and interfacing on the main fabric. So here is the cup pattern where I ironed an stay. So if you notice on the V part, I added a boning. So I used the smaller size of boning and I left about 1/2 inch in front. This is to make sure that that deep neckline on the dress will be standing, so that it will not be falling when you put on the dress. So if you don't have a rod to do that, you can go ahead to use your boning to achieve this. That is the smallest size of sewable boning. Now I'm going to go ahead to pin my dress, and I made these little straps to attach for my sleeve, or little straps for the hand of the dress. I'll measure about 1 inch after the cup. I'll place and attach. So for that strap, go ahead and multiply what your chest line is. Like, to get your chest line is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Mine is 7 inches. So for the length of the strap, I use 7 inches times 2, giving me 14. So I just added extra half inch or 1 inch to it. I'll go ahead to stitch on this part of my pattern with half inch, but when I'm stitching I'll be careful because already my fabric is ripping off at the center. So I'll also place this strap at this point, and I'll go ahead to place this way, and I'm going to pin it down also. So after pinning it down, I'm going to pin the sides, and after pinning the sides of my dress, I'm going to go ahead to stitch it with half inch all the way round. And make sure when you're stitching here, be careful because of the deep neckline. So after stitching that, here's my back pattern. I'll reduce the basque I have at the lower part, and I'll be adding half inch on top and at the lower part, and I'll trace out the sides. After this, I used my pattern to trace out my lining, and I'm going to go ahead to iron an interfacing on it. So after ironing the interfacing, I'll just place it this same way, and I'm going to be stitching the sides, the upper part and the other side. Then I'll sew in my dart, that is that we marked. I'll go ahead to sew it. After joining my pattern, this is what I have, and this is what my dress is looking like for the front. So now I'm going to bring my back pattern and I'm going to place it on it, and I'm going to be joining this part first before going ahead to join the lower part of this dress. So here's the back pattern. I'll go ahead to pin my pattern to the front. Now I have an excess, and I'll just go ahead to trim out the excess I have here to match the sides of my pattern. So after I'm done trimming out this excess, we are now going to go ahead to mark our measurement before stitching it down. So to mark your measurement, get your tape, find your under bust, place your measurement, your under bust measurement. From there, you will now mark half inch after your joining line. So what I'm going to do now is, at the under bust, I'll measure what I have, and what I have is about 17 inches, and my under bust is 14. That is 28 divided by 2. I have 14. So 17, if you take away 14, will give you 3 inches. So that 3 inches, I'll share 1.5 inches on both sides of the pattern. I'll mark and then go ahead to place my tape from that point and mark my 14 inches on the other side of my pattern. So after marking this, I'll go ahead to insert my waist measurement. To insert my waist measurement, I placed my tape at the under bust and marked my waistline, which is 17. So my under bust and waist measurement is the same thing. So I got roughly the same measurement. So the same way I shaped my under bust, that is what or how I'm going to shape the waistline. So at this side, if you place it, you notice that you will not get exactly your hip measurement. All you have to do is just take what you have here, take it all the way down, and also extend it at the other side. So after I'm done stitching, at this point I'll measure what I have at the bust, and what I have at the bust, my bust measurement is 33 inches divided by 2. I have 16.5. So that's 16.5 now, whatever I will get here. So what I'm getting here now is roughly 19.5 at the end, because my camera is not showing to the end of the dress. So I'll mark 1.5 inches, because if you take out 16 and a half from 19 point, if you take out 16 and a half from 19.5, you have 3 inches. So I marked 1.5 here and 1.5 at the other side. So I went ahead also to mark and join my pattern. After I'm done joining my pattern, I'll go ahead to shape my dress. So this is what I have after I was done shaping, and this is what it looks like. So the next step I'm going to take now is to cut out the gathers area of this dress. So I used a very simple method to achieve this. So what I did was to place my actual pattern, the one we got from the drafting. So what I'll do is I'll add extra 3 inches to my actual length, because if you notice at the front part of this dress, the gathers part is actually longer. So after this, I'll just trace out this part only, that is the front part only, adding ½ inch to it. So after that, I'll now go ahead to measure what I have and take all that measurement I have here to this side. That is my main pattern. If my main pattern is 15 inches and I added extra 3 inches, giving me 18, I'm going to take that 18 inches to the end of the fabric, and after that I'll just go ahead to cut this to the end of the fabric and then cut out the upper part. So now this is the part of my fabric that has the curve, like the front part that has that curve. So what I'll do is I'll place my fabric and I'll find the midpoint of my fabric, because I want to share it into 2 equal parts. Now I'm going to notch. After I'm done notching, I'm going to take that notched part and I'm going to place it at the joining of the dress. So you can use a gather stitch. So to save time, I had to use a pleat and I was pleating and sewing. So if you use a gather stitch, it is still okay. So after placing that notched part, I'll go to that part that has that curve in front. That is where the curve of the dress in front is. I'll pin it down, and then if you pin it down, you notice that you have like extra 3 inches coming out in front, which is how the pattern is at the front part. So now I'll go ahead and stitch that side directly with ½ inch without having any pleating or gathers at that area, to when I get to that curve, that is the curve at the front part of the dress, that is when I will start pleating the dress. So if you're using a gather, stitch this other part straight. So after the curve, immediately the curve, you can now go ahead to sew your gather stitch, and I will now go ahead to start pleating and start sewing. So if you have any question, go ahead and leave your question at the comment section. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, leave your comment at the comment section. So I'll continue pleating till I get to the end, that is towards the back. And if you're using a gather stitch, that means you also gathered it to the end, going towards the zipper at the side, at the back of the dress. So I'll just stitch or join it with ½ inch, and after joining the dress, I'll be showing you the final results of my dress. So now this is what I have after I'm done stitching, and I'll go ahead to add a zipper to it. But before going ahead to add a zipper to my dress, what I'm going to do is to stitch the lower part. So at first I didn't know this was a brown zip, but actually I didn't use a brown zip for my dress. I had to replace the zip with a black zip. So what you have to do is go to the lower part, measure about 7 inches low, and then stitch with ½ inch and attach your zipper to the upper part. So this is the final look of my dress.